This past October, packaging and branding professionals gathered in Cincinnati, Ohio at the awe-inspiring American Sign Museum for an afternoon of learning and networking. A premier kickoff reception to Brandemonium 2017, this event was led by an expert panel of speakers from companies globally recognized for packaging, branding, and market research excellence. Together, our panelists explored the evolution of brand communication, as well as how to tactically approach new trends in branding, package design, and marketing. This special recap webinar provides a detailed overview of the event's key takeaways, including insights into the changing role of brands, new ways brands can communicate beyond the package, new trends in retail, and key elements to consider when designing packaging. This event was made possible by our sponsors, Sun Chemical and the Fiberbox Association, and is produced by Brand Experience Magazine. Thank you for joining us. Our first speaker is Allison Goff. Allison is the U.S. Senior Analyst from Stylus, an innovation, research, and advisory firm that helps businesses process global consumer lifestyle, product, and engagement insights that empower them to serve their future customers well and ultimately stimulate innovation and growth. Her presentation will look at future packaging trends for 2018, including those for digital, luxury, and other categories.
So as traditional ideas of luxury evolve, packaging solutions follow the suit with formats that resonate with established and newly acquired brand fans. New premium categories are emerging, and packaging designers are working hard to review these young luxury categories with credibility, authority, and sophistication. So this works from design agency paper, and it's especially true with regards to cannabis products. It's an industry that's estimated to be worth $2.1 billion by 2020. Reminiscent of cosmetics packaging, medicinal cannabis dispensaries 7 Pints boasts a clean and elegant aesthetic. The brand identity is sedate and exudes a quiet confidence. So beyond the beautiful branding, this new luxury category will require guidelines when it comes to methods of consumption and dosage, and I can testify to that who thinks we're helpful, who I don't, so so this is Toast Cannabis Cigarettes, and they're establishing a new but familiar currency with how you take the actual product. So one puff of this, or slice, is equivalent to like sipping a drink, and if you have a whole slice, that's a whole drink, and then from there it's your own fault. So, in short, packaging for new companies like these embody a new visual language. They propel these ideas of new luxury into products that are status enhancing. And within the big body of work, we also look at meat as a new luxury, pet products, and also cacao. So it's these ideas of what is new evolving luxury categories. So moving on to luxury gifting, we're seeing this joy-evoking ritual which can be enhanced by clever packaging that delights in unboxing techniques. So for Dye, we used a Russian nesting doll idea to cleverly conceal boxes within another. And the idea is that you made a box, then you take one box and you give another box to another person, and then so on, so you can go through like 5 people or not. And so, tapping into the lucrative at-home mixology movement, Jägermeister is helping fans enjoy their drink at the perfect temperature. So it's supposed to be drunk at minus 18 degrees. They created a bottle that you freeze. It's literally a cool pack that you can use inside. And Bullet Bourbon created a freezable outer layer, so you can freeze that and then you smash it with a hammer, and it creates a perfect ice for one of their signature julep drinks. And the idea of these is a really smart way to create hands-on engagement and enhance the gifting experience through a memorable experience that also adds layers of context to the actual product. And the final luxury theme, Elemental Edge, looks to the earth with geo-inspired structural and aesthetic hues. So this is my favourite actually. It's a wine bottle from the German winery Weingut Schnitzer, so the Germans will agree to that pronunciation. The idea is that it ages and corrodes with time, so the packaging gets darker and it conveys the idea of quality and vintage without the need for excessive words in the actual bottle. And a very key geotac activity in a sort of similar way is skincare wrap packaging on the left. It features a secondary packaging layer that's made out of mud, and the idea is you have to crack through the mud in a very sensorial, visceral way to get to the actual product. And on the right, it's an actually an artist which has created a product collaboration, Francesca Gotti's Inaccessible Perfumes. It's a perfume enclosed within a recycled fiberglass, which is seemingly impenetrable. And so as the idea of luxury changes, designers really need to rethink about ways that they convey luxury to be more tactile, more in tune with the product inside, and actually really changing its concepts. And so our second theme today is diversity, and it's packaging that is advancing into an expression of personal ideas and identity. So as identities are taking more diverse forms, the growing demand for solutions that champion inclusivity is a daunting task for brands. We see how packaging is evolving from inanimate objects to an expressive medium. On the left is tampon producer Yoni, who are making it their mission to replace the shame and ignorance associated with these kind of intimate products and actually create an open visual language with them. So the limited edition containers are designed to be shown proudly in the bathroom, one assumes, instead of being hidden away in a cupboard. And they're obviously not alone in this, you're probably very familiar with the brand Things, but this particular packaging sold out within 24 hours. It's a very strong visual language about not shying away from something that's a very intimate and personal product. So empowering concepts illustrate how packaging can really make a difference. So the packaging on the left was developed as a response to the idea that women are attacked every 20 seconds. And the packaging actually doubles as a whistle so women can actually blow it should they be in trouble and get help, much like a radio line. And Words of Welcome is a design system on the right-hand side, and it was developed. It's box tape that has the phonetic spelling for German words in Arabic, Farsi, and Urdu. So when the asylum seekers or refugees go to Germany, they instantly have what that product is phonetically in German. They can create more of a connection to the community with that. And so the final thing of this is with gender identities blurring, even racial identity is becoming even more fluid, and it's becoming even harder for brands to pin down identity. So alongside this stuff, for the first time in US history, the younger generation is comprised of majority multicultural members who are seeking new ways to express their cultural identity. Targeting consumer groups that refuse to be pigeonholed means there are plenty of pitfalls, but for brands that get it right, there's also a lot of return. So you might have seen this, but vodka brand Smirnoff took an approach to this with its London Pride bottles on the left in 2016. They created 500 unique labels which have a different couple and each to express the different kinds of love you can have. And this year, Love Rings returned, and in the US they had an iridescent bottle which featured photos of real-life partners. And then on the this side is the US version of that. And so if there's one thing to take away, it's to recognise how successful marketing and packaging concepts can celebrate individuality and uniqueness. This here is Brazilian band Skol, which pays homage to the beauty of diversity with a series of limited edition cans and then corresponding digital activations and microsite. And it lets the users toast the differences of other people. And so I'm sure you are actually familiar with this one. Body image provided a very sensitive subject for Dove, who had been doing very well, and even yesterday they were in hot water again, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. However, they need to sack someone. But when they produced their real they're real beauty bottles. The point of this one is that it had no real sort of meaning. It didn't have any depth as to why they were creating the bottles of this shape. And that's why there was such a social media backlash. Like, you know, if you're supposed to buy the bottle that corresponds to your body shape, but if all the skeins run out, you know, do I buy pear-shaped? It was just a very odd concept. Whereas the Love Guide condoms on the right is actually a concept by a student, and we think it's like a little best practice example. So he created the packaging for condoms based on fruit. So you can actually pick up the package and kind of decide which one's best for you or your partner based on one would think hopes memory, but I don't know. But it's such a good idea because it has function and purpose. And so moving swiftly on, our last thing you can tell is truly inclusive design, or in reality, that lack thereof. The UN Convention of Rights for Persons with Disabilities states that all individuals should have access to the information on packaged goods, but only a small percentage, 4% of packaged goods actually comply with this ruling. So packaging is difficult to open, forces 1 in 5 people to change a product or brand. Yet developing easy-to-open designs is not always straightforward. The trend for tighter regulation requirements on child safety caps conflicts with the idea of creating something that's much easier for an older person or someone with disability to open. But we're seeing a few sort of ideas coming through and strategies that are really exciting. So new pharmaceutical closure from Duma requires a child-resistant cap, but what they've done is they've actually created a cap that can also be pushed down using a pencil or the side of a table. So they've actually adapted the thing to do the function that it needs to have for safety, but also help people who might be elderly or have loss of grip. And then on the right-hand side is a brand that's aimed at over 60s women. So they've created a really subtle design where there's a relief on the cap. It's also a wider cap, and it's designed so you have to have fewer turns to open it. So they're both really subtle but useful ways to aid people. And some designers are exploring how touch, sound, and smell can play a formative role in packaging design. So sound is being explored by speech code, a coloured, easily printable data code which can hold up to 40 minutes of speech output. So when the code is scanned, the information is read out to the consumer, which you can see having a great application at retail. An image on the right shows a device that can recognise colour and translate that into scent. So if you're in a store retail environment, that can have a really interesting impact for beauty brands and so on. And so for our next section is digital, where the Internet of Things brings ordinary objects and machines to life. And we see the Internet of Packaging offering up unique opportunities for brands and marketers where they'll be turning their packaging designs into own media assets. And with this, you can create new experiences and services. So we'll start by looking at how digital enhancement transforms packaging into a front line for advertising and brand building at the point of and post-purchase. UK Internet Things agency Sharpen's founder told us that brands are starting to look seriously at their packaging as an owned digital media asset. And some brands are doing this by, instead of making consumers download an app, which is often cumbersome, you can use apps like Shazam or Snapchat really well to actually just tap into what consumers are already doing. So for Cinco de Mayo, there was two tequila brands launched with activation that created a game that just by Shazamming it, you can engage with the brand. And it's also something that can easily apply to labels, stickers, and hashtags. Along a similar line, McDonald's in Australia created Snapchatable filters on cars. But this kind of technology has many, many applications, and some more practical than others. Research from Mindshare shows that 77% of UK adults expressed an interest in products that send digital alerts when the expiry date is near. And in a slightly more sort of fun and engaging way that taps into the idea of blockchain and very, very innovative ideas is how you can harness digital tech and its recycled bottles to express how they're tapping into their core social responsibility. So within a restaurant or a bar, you can buy one of these bottles, and then it has a code on it, which you can then add yourself to that chain as the next person who's drank from that bottle. So it's just a really nice way of being able to trace where the bottles come from, how many hands it's gone through, and it also shows the efficiency of how they're presenting themselves. So this connected packaging represents a forward relationship with the consumer. It's where the brand value is just judged not by the efficiency of the product, but also how you can engage with them. And that brings me on to packaging that is uniquely useful. For the Super Bowl 2017, Tostitos created a prime example of how you can layer services into packaging. It's in partnership with Uber they created this bag, where if you blew on the bag, it would be able to tell if you were over the limit or not. And then with the NFC code, you could then order an Uber via the app. So, win-win for everyone involved. And so Gatorade currently hosts a GX system for professional athletes, and the idea is that it tracks their water intake based on all their data, and then it signals when they need to drink more Gatorade, which I'm not sure if that's good or a bad thing, but anyway, it tracks their hydration levels and it will flash the LED light when they need to drink more. And it's been so successful that they're rolling out the bottles to consumers this autumn. And similarly, on the left-hand side, it's an Israeli startup called Water.io, and they're marketing a white label bottle, which does a very similar thing. But they're also creating a companion app where you put in your age, where you live, and so on, and it actually tells you how much water you should drink at the time of year, and keeping yourself well hydrated. So I need that. So I know that was a very sort of tour into 3 ideas or areas that we think are going to be impacting packaging design in the next sort of year and a half. But I just want to leave you with just a few future insights. So number one is creating new but familiar currencies. So that's with young luxury categories. Create new purchase incentives and extend experience, much like the diver or Willet. Through smart packaging, you can turn products into services, and finally, rule nobody out when it comes to inclusive packaging.
Our next speaker is Brian Goodpaster, Senior Creative Director of Trends and Foresight at LPK. Brian has spent his 20-year career looking to the future for brand and innovation opportunities. He partners with some of the world's most prominent brands to embrace future-forward innovations and translate them into tangible business wins. Today, Brian will discuss consumer mindsets and explore branding of the now and next.
Hey, I'm thrilled to join you here today at this kickoff event in this city, the ground zero for brand building. As Senior Creative Director of Trends and Foresight at LPK, I specialize in looking forward, looking ahead to help understand and optimize tomorrow for brands. Better? All right, so today I'd like to discuss how trends inform brand and innovation for the now and next, the challenges we all face, and how wolves move rivers. We'll get back to that. So if we're going to reimagine branding, or anything worth reimagining for that matter, it's important to have the ability to envision the values of the consumer of the future. And any number of drivers can influence that. The world is changing more rapidly than ever, changing socially, shifting environmentally, politically, and economically. The reason envisioning these shifts is so important is that many of the products, services, and platforms we're working on today won't launch tomorrow or even next week. In fact, sometimes they won't launch for 3, 5, or even 10 years into the future. So you may be asking yourselves, what really changes in 5 years, or even a decade? It can't be that dramatic, can it? Bill Gates says we always overestimate the change that occurs in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that occurs in the next 10. We make really dangerous assumptions about change. Less than 10 years ago, the US economy was too big to fail. The election of an African-American president seemed like an implausible human rights victory. A struggling Time Warner was downplaying the impact of streaming media, and the likes of Instagram didn't even exist. Logically, this is where trends come in. They help us perceive and navigate change. The trick is to use trends and foresight to anticipate both threats and opportunities before they're in our rearview mirrors. Trends provide vital information about shifts in consumer values, beliefs, and attitudes. The kinds of shifts that flip the script on human behaviors and disrupt entire categories. Understanding trends is about understanding the climate of change, the future state in which many of our new brands and innovations will reside within, a world that might be radically different than the one in which they were conceived. And in a world where disruption is at every brand builder's doorstep, any smart brand builder needs to not only be thinking about, but seriously ready to act upon both the plausible and implausible factors that will shape the future of your brand. And the good thing is, we have access to great trends content from providers like stylists, from literature, media, culture, high and low. Often we're drowning in trends content, and sometimes it's even free. And yet, too many brands struggle to translate these shifts in consumer values into meaningful opportunities. Honest Media says 74% of brands could disappear and no one would care. Consider how MTV lost its grip on youth culture by focusing on crude reality programming at a time when young audiences were craving more developed plots. You're likely asking yourselves, why is it that some brands are unable to mine these cultural shifts for meaningful opportunities? Is it an issue at the project level or at the process level? Unfortunately, many brands are overrun by organization-wide risk aversion. Think of how Blockbuster missed the shift towards on-demand media, and passed on an opportunity to purchase Netflix back in 2000 for $50 million. A brand today that's valued at over $33 billion. Shackled by past success, the risk presented by new ideas often outweighs inaction. Consider Kodak, who in fact invented the first digital camera in 1974, and it held the patent until 2007. 100 years of printed photography expertise prevented them from making the digital shift. The brand simply couldn't imagine a world where consumers would prefer to view a photograph on screen as opposed to in print. A lack of urgency, inability to act upon opportunities, and risk aversion. These roadblocks create an ecosystem completely stacked against success. So what do we do? Naturally, we talk about wolves. When wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone back in 1995 after a 70-year absence, ecologists knew there would be some effect. Despite a variety of human efforts, the deer population had overrun Yellowstone. Competing for food, the deer had effectively overgrazed most of the park's vegetation. And this is where a small pack of wolves comes in. Of course, they killed a few deer. But more impactful, they changed the behaviors of the deer. The deer no longer grazed in open areas where they could be trapped, like the gorges and the valleys. Instead, they opted for the protection of the forests. And then something big happened. These areas started to regenerate. Vegetation had an opportunity to grow, and many trees, like aspen, grew over 5 times in size. In just 6 years, buried valleys became forests, and biodiversity exploded. First, the birds returned, and then the beavers came to feed upon the trees and create dams, which created little micro-ecosystems for otters, ducks, reptiles, and fish. And with healthy vegetation, the bison population returned. And the bear populations rose because there were now berries to feed on, and they reinforced the impact of the wolves. And here's the interesting thing. The wolves changed the direction of the rivers. They created an environment where the trees could grow, and this stabilized the banks. There was less erosion, so the streams meandered less, and as the rivers deepened, they became more stable, and biodiversity continued to grow. This small pack of wolves changed the ecosystem and created a space for growth and the diversity that comes with it. So what does this mean to branding of the now and next? Am I asking you to introduce a pack of wolves? No. I'm asking you to behave like just one wolf. I'm asking you to consider how you can be a catalyst for change and how that change can lead to a vibrant new landscape for economic and cultural growth. I'm asking you to behave like one wolf because as insurmountable as the roadblocks to innovation and new brand growth may seem, the behaviors of just one wolf change behaviors that shape the ecosystem. And when it comes to brand and innovation, the problem resides less often at the project or the process level. The problem, more often than not, resides within the ecosystem. We can do all the right things, get inspired by great content, and follow all the right steps, but if the system is broken, it's impossible to deliver anything that's culturally relevant. You may see yourself as one person within a faceless system, but I believe if you behave like just one wolf, you can start chain reactions that will have massive impact. I'm asking you to behave like one wolf because when a wolf joins a pack, this is how wolves behave. As wolves, we can impact both short-term and long-term growth. I like to think of the deer as experts in what is known. Experts in what is known become really dangerous when they overrun an organization. They're the, yeah, we've tried that before. And it may seem counterintuitive to have too much expertise, but when expertise and the yeah, we've tried that before outweigh the why nots, groupthink sets in. And groupthink is a creativity killer. Imagine the Barren Gorge. Wolves introduce urgency and a bit of chaos. To the deer and to humans like us, they're pretty scary. Wolves disrupt risk aversion, the stuff that hampers the why-nots and stifles premature ideas. As a wolf, you can initiate an environment where young ideas are allowed to grow, keeping the yeah, we've tried that before's at a safe distance, and staging a safe space for incubation, where trends and insights can mature into real opportunities. Imagine what or who you could grow by keeping the yeah, we've tried that before at a safe distance. What is the simplest thing you could do to reinitiate balance? Because when that safe space exists, people feel free to share divergent thinking, to challenge the status quo, and to take the kind of risks that are needed to drive fresh ideas to market. Leading here today, I believe you can impact both short-term and long-term growth through three key full-flight behaviors. First, get comfortable with introducing urgency and a bit of chaos. Second, challenge risk aversion. And last, create a safe space for young ideas to mature. All right, think about Kodak and the shift toward digital photography. Think about Airbnb and the rapidly changing hospitality sector. Consider the brands that behave like deer, those that are wary of change, and consider those with the instincts of wolves, the confident agents of change. I believe today you can leave here and go be a wolf. Be the force that steadies the meandering streams and move the river. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tim Bergwall. As group president, Tim runs the paper and packaging business for Greif Inc., a multinational packaging manufacturer headquartered in Delaware, Ohio. Tim has 30 years of experience in packaging business and is speaking on behalf of the Fiber Box Association, which is the trade association for the North American corrugated packaging industry. His comments will focus on the changing packaging and retail landscape and how corrugated packaging can play an integral role in leveraging brands.
I'm Tim Bergwall from Columbus. The company's called Greif, and I'm here today on behalf of the Fiber Box Association. The Fiber Box Association is our trade organization. We're out of Chicago. It's a really small group of people that do a tremendous amount of work for a lot of big companies in the U.S. They represent about 95% of all the shipments of corrugated in the country, which is somewhere around $31 billion in revenue when you consider it. So a small group of people that are here. Dennis and Rachel, if you just hold your hand up for a minute so I can direct the questions to you later on. Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about trends in the corrugated industry, and I just want to set some context here by showing you a brief history. Paper has been around for thousands of years. Corrugated packaging has been around for about 160 years. So it is definitely a mature industry, but the point I want to make is that there's also been a lot of innovation in the process. We find ways every year to drive down costs, make paper stronger, make the structure stronger, and now we're doing a lot of innovation in print and certainly in structural design as well. So I want to talk about some of those things. So most people know corrugated is the classic brown box. And even though the classic brown box has been around for a long time, really since 1900, Kellogg's was the very first company to use it. And they replaced a wood box with a corrugated box, and the railroad let them do it. And from there, it just kind of took off. And despite that, we still have a lot of growth today. There's still a lot of use of the brown box, primarily because of its functionality. I mean, if you think about the durability, the fact that it can be recycled, there really aren't any products on the market that we know that can replicate the strength, the weight, and the fact that it can be 100% recycled. So it has been growing quickly. But what I want to talk about today is the fact that we're expanding into a lot of different areas. And a lot of the things that you use in your life today are actually corrugated, and most people don't even realize it. When you open up that package and you tear it open, you might notice there's flutes inside. Anything that has flutes is technically corrugated. So whether you're trying to protect your hand with that little sleeve on the coffee cup, to a mailer that you might see at the post office, to certainly anything you might see at a club store, it's all corrugated. So the industry is going wider. We're finding new applications every year. Our equipment's changing. We're finding new niches to pursue, and it continues to grow at breakneck speed. One of the main reasons for that is that the retail environment is changing quickly. We all know that. But we're also seeing consumer behaviors change with it. If you look at two major changes for us, one was the club store. Items that you used to buy in a bag or a folding carton are now going large count into a club store, and because of the added weight of 500 Pop-Tarts or whatever you might be trying to package, it needs the rigidity of a corrugated box. So a lot of things are converting. I was in Costco over the weekend, and I think out of the 25 or so things that I picked up in my cart, I think 75% of it was actually corrugated. It's very difficult to tell because a lot of the washboarding and the things you typically see on a box are no longer there. We found ways to engineer that out. The other big driver is obviously e-commerce. Everything coming to your doorstep right now is typically either in a bag or it's in a corrugated box. The reason that you're getting it corrugated is because of the strength and durability to obviously protect the contents. But with that, a lot of changes are happening as well. When we talk about innovation, we've done a lot in print. Everyone knows the corrugated box has that 360-degree marketing capability, where if you walk up to a pallet, you can typically see two sides of graphics. but that's changing now. Really all those panels are in play. And so we're incorporating different things in our machinery now to take advantage of different substrates, different fluid profiles, different inks certainly. And we've moved from T-color print, basic line print, through flexography, flexographic preprint, which is printing offset and then adhering out of the fluids. We've moved into lithography, and now of course we're into digital printing. And when we look at digital printing within the corrugated industry, we're actually on our third generation of machines now. And I was at a machine show about 2 weeks ago. There are about 6 different companies out there making digital presses specifically for the corrugated industry, and they're getting faster and they're getting better every year. So we're going to see a lot more things like versioning, customization, the ability to do digital printing online in the distribution center. All those things are coming very, very quickly. Just a few examples, and some of these are traditional. The one in the center, obviously, is a full standing point of purchase display that you might see in the grocery store. Off to the right, top right, and bottom left, you can see display shippers, where you can remove the cover, and underneath it is a display pack, or a perf that you can tear out, and beneath it is something you can put directly on the shelf, and it serves as a point of purchase. And those have been around for a while, but they're growing. You can see the avocado box in the top left. When you go to a store these days to buy an apple, people aren't just buying an apple. They want a specific type of apple, and a lot of times they want it from a specific grower or orchard. And so these growers know that, so they're obviously charging a lot more, they're putting a lot more graphics on their box. So we've seen that take off, and a lot more color, a lot more photography being incorporated into produce. And then you can see even some new applications like the vodka box on the bottom. Bagging box has been around for probably 25 years, and we're still seeing new things. This one happens to be vodka, and I guess sometimes when you're drinking vodka, you just want speed and convenience. And so that would do it for you. And that's probably designed to go in the freezer, I would guess. One of the things that we're seeing a lot of these days is a lot more printing on the inside of the box. And e-commerce is really the driver of that. When you think about shipping high-value things to someone's house, you need to protect what's inside of it. So the boxes tend to be generic. You're not going to ship a blue Tiffany box to someone's doorstep. It wouldn't be there for very long. So what marketers and shippers are doing is they're shipping them in craft and brown. They get the durability, and then you open it up, and obviously you've got a lot of panels on the inside where you can do a lot of graphics and a lot of messaging. I heard someone say the other day that the typical person looks at an advertisement for about 3 seconds, but the unboxing experience is 45 seconds to a minute. Right? So if you think about that, that's a really big opportunity. You open up the box, you're inspecting your item, you're laying everything out on the table, and there's a really nice opportunity there. The machines that we're buying now in our industry actually have the ability to print inside and out single pass. So this is going to be more cost effective in the future as well. Okay, one of the other things I wanted to mention is structural design. Structural design has been a hallmark in the corrugated industry for a long time. But we're seeing it take off and getting more prevalent. So when we talk about branding and really showing off your brand, showing consumers what your brand is all about, structural design is a really big part of that. So a lot of times you don't even need graphics. You don't need a logo or you don't need a photograph. You can communicate a lot just with the design. Look at Apple products, right? They're primarily white, but when you open them up, you can tell this is a company that really pays attention to detail. One of the other things I wanted to leave you with is that the other area we're making some big strides in, and this is something that was invented by Greif. We found a process to take heat out of the corrugated board and change the starch, so we get a very flat surface with board, and we're using different fluids so we can match the same thickness or caliper for fixtures and stores. So what we're doing is we're replacing foam board with traditional corrugated with graphics on it. And the benefit of that is that when you're done using these in the box stores, you can just fold it up, take it to the back room, and bale it with the rest of the corrugated. So it's a cost-effective way to do signage, but it's also environmentally friendly because it can readily be recycled. So we're seeing some nice growth in that product line. So I'll leave you with one thing, and this is the part of the industry that I'm most proud of, is the sustainability aspect of it. And I'm not going to go into what we do with sustainable forestry and the trees and the paper that we make, but I'll just point you to one thing on this slide, and that is, out of all the corrugated that's produced in this country in a year, 93% of it is recycled. And most people don't realize that, but this is a material that is in really, really high demand. Greif is a mid-tier player. We've only got 2 paper mills, but we have to buy 60,000 tons of old corrugated every month just to keep our mills running. So there's a lot of demand for this material. We have teams of people out there trying to find it and buy it. Obviously, we buy a lot from Kroger, we get a lot from the big box stores, but we're always calling on recyclers and always trying to find more material. So the main message here is that it's so simple. If you can make a design out of corrugated, it goes into the recycle bin. You don't have to guess which bin, and it gets recycled and it finds its way into more paper. So that's my last message. Thank you for your time and attention, and we'll be available.
Our next speaker is Russell J. Schwartz, Chief Technology Officer at Sun Chemical. Today, Russell will explore how new and pending developments in inks and coatings can transform packaging on the shelf and beyond to help brand owners and package designers reimagine brand communication.
So, there's 3 sections here I'd like to talk about, starting with eco-friendly. Eco-friendly. I've been hearing this for so long, and it has done so little for business until now. I think things are changing a bit now. Driven by consumers and non-government organizations. For example, the APR, Association of Plastic Recyclers, is a good example, and there are others. Greenpeace is another one. These organizations are putting pressure on industry to respect the circular economy. And I think that's a good thing. I tend to be an environmentalist myself. And the consumer. So they say 62% of consumers are interested, but 22% would pay for it. 3% consider it the primary buying factor, which you may say 3% is a small number, but if you're a major brand owner, and as one of the previous speakers said, that's still important. You want to appeal to your largest buying base that you can, right? So at Sun Chemical, we've put a lot of effort around renewable inks. It doesn't mean they're 100% renewable, but we're getting the renewable content up into the 60s, 70s, and 80% under the philosophy of let's not let good be the enemy of perfect. We'll make it as renewable and recyclable as we can. And we're in that direction, but we also respect the consumer. We respect our customers, and people tend not to want to pay more for it. So our mantra has been, let's make it renewable, and let's keep the cost at least equal to what consumers are used to today. And if we can do those 2 things, it'll be good for our business, and it'll be good for the consumer and the country, the world. If you look at one area where we've invested a lot of time and effort, it's in the area of shrink sleeves, which is has been considered one of the most polluting of packages because the shrink sleeve hurts the recycler's ability to recapture the material and put it back into the supply chain. This is the Sun Chemical solution to this. We've developed a shrink sleeve that during the recycling process just pops off. And this is an early commercialization stage. We've run a number of these. We have interest from converters and brand owners. In Japan, they don't have to do this. They just tell everybody to cut the label up, and they do it. Can you imagine in our country asking people to do that? It's ludicrous, right? It just would never work. Eliminate labels with direct-to-package print. I'm a little scared of this slide standing up here because some people here are label people, and I don't have any vendetta against labels at all. Just I want to make that clear. I like labels. Maybe not all labels, but But if you look at a label, it's 10% ink, maybe 10 or 20% glue, and the rest of it is paper. Hey, I love paper too. That's good. Today, if you're printing digital on boxes, you're usually printing them flat, as in conventional print, which means speed is very important. If a conventional press is running at 1,600 feet per minute, the converters want to see digital inks running at 1,600 feet per minute or faster. However, if the business model changes and you decide that you don't need to print anymore, at that point in the supply chain, you can print, if you can print while packaging, you don't need to run it 1,600 feet per minute anymore. Now you can run it maybe 200 or 250 feet per minute and sacrifice no productivity, eliminate the label, and personalize the package. Customize the package for region, demographic, you name it. So I don't think this makes it in 2 years, but I think if you look at that 10-year thing, we got to be careful here. Now, another technology that we've developed with a company called Van Dam is a direct-to-shape conventional flex-end press. Well, it's not really conventional, but now instead of putting labels and films onto, say, for example, cups and containers, this press will print direct to the shape. Metal Deco has done that for decades. The second area I want to talk to you about is smart packaging. Divided into two basic types. There's consumer interactive and there's supply chain interactive. The consumer interactive is really designed to relate to the consumer or provide the consumer with a benefit not previously available, or to authenticate and provide security, especially around higher quality products. The supply chain interactive is more for the supply chain people who are worried about where products are located. Are they moving off the shelf? Are they being stolen? Where are they in the supply chain? In the case of interactive, there's a small company called T-Ink who we've partnered with, and they print a capacitive pattern which is hidden and is invisible on the package. But if you hold the package and touch it with your smartphone, and it can take you to a website or a URL. This is just starting to hit the market now. There's a number of promotional campaigns in progress. The trick is here, the challenge here is how do you get the consumer to download the app? Because this requires an app. So it's going to take some very strong brand owners with a lot of savvy to figure out how to do this. But if they succeed, and I don't know if they will, but if they succeed, they can create an entire market to access some of the messaging that they would like to deliver. A second technology that is similar is called DSS, it's Document Security System, and we print a hidden code that the camera can pick up. With both of these technologies, unlike with a QR code, you take up no real estate on the package, so it doesn't interfere with the package design. This is a more secure system, and one that can be used for high quality products with serious security concerns. Then moving to the supply chain for a second, on the shelf. The problem in the past with RFID and near-field technologies is they're too expensive for bulk products, right? They're great if you're selling a $200 pair of jeans or a $600 sport coat. But when you're trying to sell cans of beans or sodas for 89 cents or $1.79, nobody will spend that money. They won't spend even 5 cents per antenna, at least I don't believe they will. I know Walmart once put out the challenge for 5-cent RFID, but I still think even 5 cents won't sell. These smart shelves, and there are a number of different designs being explored for commercialization now. These smart shelves, you put the money up front in the shelf recognizes the product, and then through Bluetooth can communicate with the inventory system of the store. the store as well as the brand knows what's on the shelf at all times. And that's very powerful. No empty shelves, restocking is done efficiently, reordering is done efficiently, and there are some major stores right now that are in beta trials with this technology today. And there's a few competing technologies on this. This particular one is based on force sensing pads that know the weight and the shape of the product. So some design modifications may be necessary, but there should be minimal or no increase in cost. And then lastly, I'd like to talk about stand out on shelf. Everybody wants their product to look good and attract the consumer, right? So if you want to go natural, maybe a printed wood texture surface on a corrugated box is the way to go. And at Sun Chemical, what we've done is we've worked to make special inks and coatings. Some of them are shown over there on the bench that really give you the feeling that it's a wood package. And in addition to that, there are many types of surface treatments that make the package feel and look nicer on the shelf. I thank Todd for making a few samples for us using some good products and coatings. And there are some booklets over there. Shameful plug for Sun Chemical there. If you look at the sensory importance, we know that, scents, odors elicit strong emotional reactions, but the fact of the matter is, the human species is known for its color acuity. We see color really well. It's the one thing we do better than most of our animal kingdom friends, except for maybe some birds, but we see color really well. We don't smell that well compared to dogs and other animals, but we can see. If you don't think that color is important, how come this dress virtually shut down the internet? Right? I mean, everybody was interested in this and asking each other what they saw, and everybody wanted to know, were you a black and blue person or a gold and white person? We love color. Now, this may not reproduce very well. I apologize for that because of the lighting. And people other than myself who are responsible for this, not me. But when I say remember this color, how many of you think I'm talking about the writing versus the green background? It's the green background that I want you to remember, not the writing. So a couple of you were in the same category with my wife, who was the only one when I asked, who said it was the red. So, again, I apologize if this doesn't show up, but shout out if you know the answer. What color is this? This happens to be brown if you can't tell. What product is well known for brown? Yes. Thank you. Don't be shy. Just shout them out as you know them. What about this color, which if you can't tell, it's kind of a fluorescent orange. Tide. Is that a P&G person? Oh, okay. Right. Everybody should recognize Tide. However, even though you recognize it, while the human eye is fantastic for it being a color computer, the human brain doesn't remember color that well, believe it or not. We'll see that in a minute, maybe. And this famous red, of course, is Coke red. And lastly, Tiffany's. Right, okay. I was told I couldn't use my Viagra slide to show the blue. So, I wanted to see how many people shouted that one out. Now Sun Chemical, we love color, we work with color, and we have something called the Sun Color Box, which is really designed to accelerate from your design into an actual press trial. The main feature of it is speed. You know, the frustration of how long it can take to get into production. This is something that our company has worked on. If you want more information on that, give me a call or Heather. Now, Raise your hand if you think the color on the first slide was A. B. C. And D. Okay. The most popular were B and C. The correct answer was B. Next to each other, these colors are very easy to see, but remembering color is not something people can do very well. Most people. Some people are phenomenal at it. Now, aside from color having a major impact, look at the lights flashing if you haven't noticed it in that picture. Color motion signals from the retina are fast-tracked into the brain to provide context to the colored images that are read later. This is a survival requirement for the species, for many species. Motion and color together are much stronger than either of them separate. The human visual system has an intrinsic optimization for color signals with moderate amounts of motion. Sun Chemical, recognizing this, has been working with a company called Transitions Digital, who is now part of Sun Chemical, to develop signage for point-of-purchase displays that create color and motion. LCDs do color and motion, but they're very expensive. So the idea here is to create point-of-purchase experiences that bring the consumer's attention to that product. We've had 2 in-store trials, and the market lift has been astonishing on the two trials. An outside company was hired to run the trials, and the lift figures were around 30%. So this is technology we're trying to roll out presently, and during 2018, we intend to have the first commercial products available, but they're not available today. So with that, I'd like to thank you all. Have I done? Okay. So with that, thank you very much.
Our last speaker is Jamie Wagner. As Executive Creative Director at Interbrand, Jamie is a design, management, and innovation professional who improves brand performance for clients by leading his team to strategically creative brand solutions that exceed business objectives. Today, Jamie is sharing a case study for a brand of sparkling wine that has been reimagined to communicate its authenticity to a new target and deliver an integrated brand experience strategy.
So, hello, I'm Jamie. I am not a pirate, even though my design team constantly makes fun of me that those are transition lenses. I like my lenses. I think they're cool and iconic, but they don't think so. They make fun. But I am a designer. I've been a designer pretty much my entire life. I started drawing when I was 5 years old. I'm doing exactly what I love, which is cool. Part of the reason that I wanted to be a designer, and in particular this discipline of consumer branding and packaging, was it was immensely gratifying to walk into a store and say, hey, I helped do that. That was pretty cool. So this is why I chose that profession. I also love brands. And being a package designer, I love consumer brands. These are some of my favorite brands. I'm sure you all have your own. And the cool thing about that is I get to work at Interbrand. We don't say it like that, don't we? Interbrand, we're the world's largest brand consultancy. I'm honored to work there and honored to get to work with some of the coolest brands. So this is our mission, this is our purpose. Together we grow brands and businesses. And the coolest part about what we do every day is that philosophy of togetherness emanates from our core, whether it's from a global perspective with one firm or the way that we interact with one another day to day, but it's also in how we interact with our clients, our agency partners, and our members. In Cincinnati, we create iconic brand experiences that transform the way people engage, shop, and buy. And I have a case study that hopefully will prove that. And so we've been working with LVMH for the last couple of years, and we started working with them on Shandong sparkling wine. When we first started working with them, we knew that LVMH was doing very well, the sparkling category was doing very well, but our brand was not. And so our client team put together a three-pronged approach to really stimulate growth for this particular brand. They hired us to be the one in the middle, is to be the agency to help them with their brand codes and packaging. The interesting part is that last part, which is they wanted to think about iconic experiences beyond the brand to help stimulate growth, and we knew that we could help them there, but we'll get to that. And so the brief was awesome. Revolutionary, blue sky, do the coolest designs ever, but like any good project, it's a journey, and a couple of management changes and a rebrief. They asked us to consider designs that were a little bit closer in, which is fun, but here's some of the cool work that we did in the first round. This is the new design that you can find on shelves. We're very proud of it. This is for redesign. And what we did on the pack is, the first thing is we wanted to really bring prominence back to our codes and be proud of who we are. So through scale, through the use of negative space, we really brought prominence back to the branding and the shooting star. We added some additional secondary codes, the hills of Napa Valley and the vineyards, and certainly the script of California. And the reason for those is we wanted to reinforce our purpose, which is born French, raised in Napa Valley. And the last thing that we did is that we wanted to look at a more vibrant, useful color palette to connect with our millennial target. Plus, there were some issues with how this brand popped and shelved. The cool thing about this project also is that our designers, Kate, had the arduous task of going to Napa, meeting with manufacturing vendors, procurement, making sure that we really understood their printing process, understood what they could be, what they were capable of. And we worked closely with all of those vendors. You can see Kate up there with our client. We had regular meetings with them to ensure that quality was met at every turn. But not only did we do their core packaging, we've become their agency of record for a lot of their work. This is the most recent launch of the Winter Holiday limited edition packaging for Chandon. There's some over there at the table. And we've also helped them with social media planning. In this case, for Winter Holiday. This is another limited edition campaign that we worked. It was summer. Some of you may have seen the bottles that was in Kroger over the weekend. I was talking to one lady, she's like, yeah, I can't get it anymore, sorry. We also worked on activation ideas to help them launch their summer fete, both held in New York City and in Napa Valley, as well as social media programs for this particular product. And I would just like to talk about how we started doing that. Along the journey of redesigning the codes and packaging, we put forth an effort to really say, you know what, we can do this work for you. So proactively, we started rapid prototyping big ideas and took those and packaged them up and shared those with our main client, NCOP. And she was very impressed. It's secured our spot as being the agency of choice and the agency of record, but this is the kind of stuff that we do. We rapid prototype around the brand, the consumer. We're working iteratively. The cool thing about that is that we can change things on the fly. We can help serve it up to sales and management teams and ultimately get to delivering iconic brand experiences that go beyond our core. And I'm happy to report that we did have a positive impact for this brand and we delivered 38% growth versus last year, which is pretty amazing. And with that, thanks.
And that concludes our webinar. As a quick recap, new technologies and fresh ideas are the only way to stay relevant in today's ever-changing marketplace. More than ever before, consumers know what they want before they've even started shopping. The sheer number and variety of products within a single category can be overwhelming, and often the only difference between the right choice and the product left behind is a great package. The experienced group of professionals at the Reimagining brand communication event in Cincinnati presented a series of new ideas, coming trends, tech advances, and forward-thinking attitudes that will foster the growth of new, better things in the packaging industry in the months and years to come. If you have questions for our speakers, please email christine.yancey@stmediagroup.com. Thank you.